Don't lose your way. Your mind, we have to be as one.
What's going on YouTube? Warstorm here, coming at you guys with another video today. Today I'll be discussing doing a deck profile for a true King Yang Zings deck, something I've been working on. I will say that the main reason this deck is not, I don't actually have the cards for this deck, is that the True King field spell is so expensive. I really can't justify building this deck. I'd love to, and the other thing is the deck, while it can still function under link summoning, like, because, you know, sitting on a big synchro monster is still a pretty valid play. The problem this deck has is that it's so expensive, and while it can spit a lot of monsters on the board, it's just not going to. Yang Zings as a whole struggle to function with this new rule, all of these new rule changes. So we'll go ahead and get all that out of the way. We'll go ahead and get to it. So of the True Kings, we only have two of the Fire True Kings. This is Vanisher. Vanisher's, I've really been surprised at how expensive Vanisher is, considering it's probably the worst True King. I only play two in this list because it probably has the worst effect, and you really don't want to see it too much. So it's one of the reasons it's in here at 2. 2 is perfect. You could, but it's definitely not the best True King by a mile. Then 3 of the one, you know, a lot of us see because the dinosaur deck. We have 3 Lithogazm, Lithosagam, whatever. Is an amazing card because when it knocks 2 Earths, it knocks cards out of your opponent's extra deck, which is powerful itself. Whenever it's popped by a card effect, it grabs a non-Earth worm type monster from your graveyards. That means pretty much anything that's not beyond can be recurred from your graveyard. That means you can grab your Danglong here back, which is amazing, but you can also grab any of your other True Kings back, which allows you to extend combos. It's probably one of the best ones, but I feel like the next one's a little more brutal, which is Bostaros over here. Now, what makes Bostaros so good is, yes, it can banish 2 spells and traps. You pop 2 waters, and with this deck's many different attributes, it's pretty easy to set up. But Bostaros, what makes it so good is it grabs any worm combo piece you need from your deck. Being able to summon monsters for free is always nice, but the fact that this card allows you to, the combos that this card enables are just ridiculous. It's such a good card. And its spell trap banishing effect does come up on occasion. It's pretty decent against a lot of decks that play a lot of back row. I found, and then the 3 copies of the Wind True King, which is Marimune. Marimune is an interest. Needs to pop wind type monsters, but when she does pop 2 winds, it doesn't really happen very often, but it can. It banishes 4 cards from top of your opponent's deck, and whenever she pops, he searches any non-wind worm type monster, which means you can search your Yugioh or any other combo piece you need. Another important thing to remember about the True Kings and their extra effects. Those effects go through unless your opponent stops the summon, because it's part of their summoning condition. So let's say you summon a Bostaros and your opponent doesn't respond to the initial activation. It banishes no matter what. A lot of times when you're going into, it's important to know, because whenever you take a deck like this to a tournament, you want to know that, like, sometimes you're just playing casually. It's fine to let your opponent take back things so they learn. But if you're trying to win, you obviously don't want to give your opponents any kind of advantages. So let them know, it's like, no, I'm not letting you take it back because you didn't know. Same thing with a lot of they have to respond when the True King actually hits the board. They can't, otherwise they can't, the secondary effects will go through. Then for the Yang Zings, we have 3 Suwani. I know a lot of lists don't play 3, but I like to kind of round out my targets for our True Kings at 3 for each one. We have, so I like it 3 Suwani. Suwani's just a big beat stick, and I find that it's 1900. Then extra attack points it gifts or synchro monsters is pretty decent. Then 2 of the Earth one. Beyond is probably the one you're going to be grabbing from your deck, but Lithogazm is pretty good, and you have the 3 Lithos in decks. It's one of the reasons I have 2 Beyonds in this list. Also being able to make Yazi immune to battle is pretty decent. Then we have 2 Bixie for our Water True King over here. We do have the Marimara, which I'll get to in a moment. Trap immunity isn't quite as relevant outside of the Paleozoic matchup, and all the Paleozoic spells and traps target. So if you have a Yazian, that typically puts enough pressure on them anyways. And I don't expect Paleos to see a ton of play this coming format, just because I think that I cannot really out a unaffected trap masterpiece very efficiently. The only way they can really get over it is like a Cat Shark Totally Awesome combo, and most of the time Masterpiece is going to pop before they even get to that. So, but Pixie's still a pretty decent card. 2's a good number. Now, 2 Pulaos. The main reason is we have our Win True King over here, and we want to I like having 3 targets for our True Kings. So, the 2 Pulao's level is also really good for synchro plays, making things like Formula Synchron and climbing into bigger synchro monsters is always nice. Then we have 2 Chaiwins. Chaiwin, most of the time you're going to be sending it off your Dinglong to then be brought back from the graveyard, but it's also pretty decent being a level 1 tuner that can recur itself. Now, this might seem like cardinal sin to some of you Yang Zing players, but only have 2 Jiaotus in this list. The way this list runs, it's very highly searchable, it's very easily accessible, and you're going to get to it more often than not. So, Jiaotu, while it's still a really potent card, but what I really like about this particular version of Yang Zings is that it's not quite as a glass cannon as the Metal Foe variant, which I still love to pieces, but it's not as reliant on, getting that Jiaotu effect off to go off. And that's one of the things I really like about this particular build. Then for some of the attacks, we have the 1 Vortex Trooper. If you're familiar with Metal Foe decks, this is a attack some people run. The main thing is it's a wind type monster to pop with our Wind True King, and it can fix some bad hands. The main thing is you're going to pop it with one of your True Kings to draw a card. So yeah. Then we have the Mermer. Mermer, I believe, came out on Mage of Vengeance, and it can only be special summoned by a worm type monster, but you can, for example, pop your Yazi and then bring this out of the deck, and it's being able to just spam tokens that can then be used as synchro fodder is just an amazing card. Yes, you're going to draw it on occasions, but most of the time that's not really that big of a deal because your Earth True King here can recur it from the graveyard. Then for our spells, the 1 Upstart Goblin for consistency. Pretty much in every Yang Zing variant I've played, I run Upstart at the maximum numbers I can. Draconic Diagram, the Bank Breaker here. Diagram kind of ties the whole deck together, makes it consistent. You have to run 3. It's not a hard once per turn, so that's why we run 3 Terraformings. Normally I don't run 3 Terraformings for a field spell, but in this particular list, since it's not once per turn, you want to see Diagram, you play the 3 Terras. Only 2 Yang Zing pass. It's very highly searchable via Dinglong, and you don't necessarily need to see it all the time, but being able to recur your Yang Zings back to the deck and draw 2 is always nice. Soul Charge has always been a Yang Zing staple to me pretty much from the ages, so I don't think this list is any different. 2 Dark Holes. Most of your cards trigger when they're popped by card effects anyways. It tends to be better than Regeki than it is in most decks because pretty much every monster in our entire list, minus our Mermer here, triggers when it's popped. Then 2 branches. This isn't like a traditional Yang Zing list, so you don't need 3 branches and the warning or whatever. 2 branches is fine. Branches is obviously an amazing trap card, and being able to lock down your opponent from outing your board is always nice. Now for the extra deck, we have the 1 Ultimate Zulkin. The main combo you make to make Zulkin is you have Dinglong here, and you can send a True King monster to the graveyard with Dinglong's effect. Then you synchro up with a True King and your level 9 Dinglong to make an Ultimate Zulkin, and then Zulkin can bring out Crystal Wing or your Clear Wing over here. Zulkin is still a really powerful card in this list. It's pretty decent because you can get it out pretty efficiently and the Dinglong will also trigger its grave effects. We have 2 Crystal Wings in this particular list. I like the main reason you have 2 is because it's pretty easy to climb into through normal means, but it's also pretty easy to bring out with our Zulkin. And there are times where you will bring out the second one, and that's one of the reasons I like it. You could obviously only play 1, but it is getting a reprint pretty soon. And, if it's sitting at about, I think, less than 40 right now. This might seem like another cardinal sin to you guys, but we only have 2 Boxias in this list. It's mostly for extra deck space, and honestly, unlike the Metal Foe variant where it easily spits out, you really don't need to resolve Boxia, 3 times in a turn anymore. A lot of your other cards tend to do the job. Then we have the 1 Stardust Charge Warrior. Charge Warrior is really good in combination with a card like Suwani over here. Being able to attack all your opponent's monsters while sitting at 2,500 and drawing cards is always nice. The 1 Yazi still puts a lot of pressure on decks that because a lot of the stuff running around targets right now, Masterpiece targets, Trident targets, all the Paleozoic spells and traps target, pretty much everything running around right now, the main annoying stuff targets. So Yazi's always going to be a good card for those matchups, and having it pumped up by something like Suani can be game ending against a lot of decks. Then we have the Haster. Haster's an interesting card. It's a level 4 synchro monster that, if I'm familiar with what it does, it sends the monster zones the graveyard equips to a monster, and then when it's popped by a card effect, it will, while it's equipped to that monster, it will go to the graveyard, and then you will snatch steal that monster when that monster leaves the field. So what you can do is you can equip it to a monster, and that monster can't attack, and then you can run it over, and or then you can, if it leaves the field while that's still equipped to that monster, you get to take it back. There's certain kind of different combinations you can do to trigger that effect. It's pretty easy to trigger anyways. You can always pop it. What you do is you synchro summon into it, then equip it to a monster, then you can pop it with your diagram, and then it'll trigger its effect to snatch your opponent's monster. Taking your opponent's monster is always nice. Then we have the one Formula Synchron for synchro climbing plays. One Clear Wing, you bring it out on occasion. I kind of like having it in here. And it's a pretty powerful synchro monster in its own right. The one Crystron Phoenix is probably a card some of you guys might disagree with, but I really like it in this list. It is a blowout against a lot of top tier decks. If you resolve it against anything that's really back row heavy, it's going to sweep them for a game, especially if it's unaffected by certain things. It's pretty easy to climb into. You just need like a Formula Synchron and a Yazi. That can do that pretty efficiently. And obviously you have your Dinglong over here can modify its level to meet the requirements. That's, you can, if say you have like a Stardust Charge Warrior and a Dinglong out, you can dump Swanee and then make this. It's a really powerful card, and if it does bite the dust, it can bring back anything in your graveyard, which is really good. Then we have the Dinglong. I know a lot of Yang Zing players probably play 2 or even 3. I've seen as many as 3, but I've always found one Dinglong is perfect because in this list you have so many ways to recur it via Lithogasm, and you can recur it via Lithogasm. You can recycle it via Path. I've never really found more than one to be needed, but you can obviously play 2 if you really, really need to. Then we have the one Herald of the Arclight for the Beyond and Chainwing combo, where one of your monsters get pops, you special summon the Chainwing from the graveyard, you special summon Beyond from your deck, and then go for Arclight on your opponent's turn. Also can be recurred with your Baxia over here since it is a level 4 monster. Then for the Exceeds, of course, the monster that makes everyone salty, which is Calamities over here. This card is a blatantly ridiculous floodgate because you can basically lock your opponent out of the entire duel for a turn. It prevents monsters from attacking, switches attributes, so even if they do manage to have something that activates in hand that they can still bring out that doesn't have that attribute you called, they still can attack you. And you can, if your opponent happens to leave it on the board for a turn, it can then pop their monsters as well. And the attribute modifying is also really nice on your turn because you can trigger your extra effects of your True Kings, which is it's absolutely ridiculous card, easy to get into with via Dinglong and another True King. So yeah, pretty good card. You could probably run more than one, but personally, with the way this deck flows, I found that one tends to seal the game on its own, in my opinion. Then we have the one Phantom Fortress. Phantom Fortress is just the other generic rank 9. Sometimes you need a non-targeting banish, and that's where this card comes up. So anyway, guys, about comes to the end of the deck profile today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What would you change about my list? And as always, thank you guys for watching. So Orstorm, signing out.